Hey everyone, and welcome to a horrible fish tank review. Meaning the fish tank that I'm going to review is horrible, not my review itself. Hopefully. Alright, so this is the Myers, which is the grocery food store chain thing, corporation. This is their betta tank, divided betta tank. It actually comes with a divider. This is like $6. Buy this entire thing for $6. This is what you get with it, except for this plant in the middle. So you get two really shiny plastic plants that will poke out your fish's eyes, as well as rip the fish's fins. You get a really crappy amount of gravel. It barely even covers the bottom of the tank. You do not get a moss ball, of course. Those actually cost more than the tank does at some places, which is kind of ridiculous. You get this top, which actually isn't that bad of a top. This is probably the only good feature of this tank, as it does have, covers the thing so your fish can't do suicide. It probably will want to do suicide because this tank is so damn small. But it gives you these slits that let in air and whatnot, and it actually has this to take it on and off, so it's super slippery. Sorry about that bad noise. Like I said, you can divide this tank, so you can make this ridiculously small tank even smaller. They don't say how big this tank is. I'm guessing it is between a quarter to a half a gallon of water for the entire thing. So let's say it's half a gallon, just put it on the bigger side. Divide it in half, you're going to get about a quarter of water. Then you gotta take away the little bit of gravel, and then also the murdering plant that they give you as well. So your fish pretty much has no room to swim. Give you an overhead view here. So your fish has this much room to swim then, which is about the body length of a betta. So pretty much your betta is stuck in solitary confinement and can't move. Now, you don't have to use the divider core, so they are gaining double the space, which is not saying much because, again, this is horrible beyond belief. So instead of that, they get double the space. Again, this is not with it usually. Doesn't come with it. Added that in myself. Same with the moss ball. Yeah, so then they have, this much room, the front of the tank and a tiny bit in the middle to swim. So they maybe have three body lengths to swim, which is just horrible. This is more of a torture chamber than it is a actual fish tank aquarium. And of course, as you should be able to tell from the title of this video and what I'm saying, is this is not an adequate aquarium for anything besides for what I have in here, which are the invasive snails. Somewhere in there. Might be one right there. Yeah. There's a few invasive snails. That's all I put in here. I switched over to this tank from the other, even smaller tank for my invasive snails that don't really care what they're in. Because they're invasive. And they're snails. And they're tiny. Yeah, so this is definitely not a recommended buy. Anything like this aquarium. Other brands, other companies make very similar tanks. This one over here is a top fin. That one's even smaller, but I know top fin makes something like this too. So any of these tiny tanks are horrible. Do yourself a favor, do your fish a favor, and get at least a 2.5 gallon tank for your betta, with a filter, with a heater, and even with a light. Which are 3 things this tank is, of course, missing. There's no heater. So your fish will either, during the winter time, if you live somewhere cold, it's going to get way too cold, which can cause the fish to stop eating, cause them stress, cause them to die. No filter, so meaning if you don't do water changes pretty much every single day, your water is going to be nasty, and over time your fish will just stress out and die. Again, this thing's way too small, so you can't even swim around, it'll stress out, and eventually it will die. This is just going to cut your fish's lifespan in probably like a third of what it should be. Bettas can live 3 to 5 years. I'd give your betta maybe a year of torture in this type of tank. So again, buy yourself a nice bigger tank that is filtered and has a, and they can actually stick a heater in. And technically, yes, you could stick a heater in here, and you could actually stick a tiny filter in here if you really wanted to. Then you're taking up even more room for the betta. So you do buy something like this, just get some invasive snails and stick them in here. If you buy some live plants, they'll probably have some invasive snails on them anyway. Yeah. Alright guys, thanks for watching this horrible fish tank review. See you guys next time. Goodbye.